The early teens are years of upheaval and turmoil. They're years of physical and glandular change, new and wider relationships with people, and new inner feelings in the early adolescent. Parents of almost every child find the age of puberty or early adolescence full of problems. The knowledge that these difficulties are normal and usually only temporary helps to turn family friction into more constructive channels. Let's watch some of these youngsters as they spend Friday afternoon and evening. We'll see what some of the common troubles are. Sally, Joan, and Kay are typical teenagers. Each has her own personality, but they're all normal. Their actions may seem excessive, but that's normal for teenagers. For instance, that giggling. The unconstructive criticism of school.
Personally, I think Mr. Aldrich's classes are just a waste of time. If he can't teach any better than that, I can't be bothered studying. Why, this morning we spent 20 minutes before we even opened a book or read anything.
The criticism of families.
Last week, my brother spent all his allowance on candy in one day. I think it's awful the way Mother lets him waste money. Of course, she lets him do anything he wants.
The unrealistic ideas of their own future.
Well, I've really decided I'd like to be a ballet dancer. I'd get started in New York and then I'd tour all over the country. I'd sure hate to spend the rest of my life in this old dump.
Yes, if you don't make an effort to understand them, teenage girls may seem silly and opinionated. And the boys.
Best pitcher in the National League.
He is nice.
Ah, yes, he is.
He can't throw the ball.
They want to prove their own importance by making themselves heard. That combination of new lung power, changed voices, and boundless energy is hard on the neighbors.
Give him a laugh.
They seem to spend hours in completely useless activity. They quarrel a lot, but the gang sticks together. There are no girls in it. They are passionately interested in sports. And hero worship from afar is common. A car and home, as good as the other boys have, are important. The gang is impressed by material possessions. This bolsters Tom's self-esteem. To boast about Dad's popularity or achievement is very satisfying.
I said, okay. So Dad got a bonus because he sold more in the last 2 months than any other salesman in the district.
The adolescent is self-centered. Bill's response to every situation is concerned with how it affects him.
My old man's got an order in the Neil's Motors for a new convertible. We're going to get the first one that comes in.
What kind of car are you getting?
I think it's a shot.
Sam doesn't talk much. He feels safer saying nothing. At least then he can't say the wrong thing. This is a common method of self-protection. At home, away from the group, there are other aspects of adolescent behavior that are annoying to parents. There's the untidiness. The eternal hunger, picking at whatever is around to eat. It's certainly annoying to Mother, who has plans for what is to be eaten and when. But the universal appearance of these adolescent traits leads to the conclusion that they are normal and based on real needs. Kay is quite mature for her age. She's well adjusted, accepting her defects and trying to make the most of her assets. She's tremendously influenced by fashion advertisements and gets many ideas on grooming from magazines, television, and movies. To wear her hair and clothes according to the latest style is much more important than to wear them in the most becoming way. She's not mature enough yet to rely on her own judgment. The world knows best, and she wants to be sure of her place in the world. Mother may have other opinions of what looks best, but of course, Mother has old-fashioned ideas. Kay's mother is always a little overwhelmed by the extremes to which her suddenly grown-up daughter carries her ideas of style. If it's the style to be careless and informal, her sloppiness is so deliberate as to be offensive. But Mother has learned that these things are usually temporary. The less said about them, the more quickly they wear off. Objection often brings friction without any change. Half an hour after she has left her friends, she's on the phone to them again.
Hello, is Joni there?
It seems unnecessary, but there's a real need for talking to others in the same stage, for constant reassurance of her standing as friend and equal.
Hello, Joni? Look, I've got an idea. Why don't we go down to Johnson's after supper? Maybe some of the gang will be there and we can cook up something.
Gee, Kay, I'm awful sorry. I can't go. I have to stay home tonight. Well, why don't you ask Sally? Maybe she can go. Okay, I'm awful
Joan
sorry.
is not
Bye.
as independent as Kay is, perhaps because she hasn't been encouraged to stand on her own feet. There is no friction in Joan's family life. Her mother finds her a very good girl, not headstrong and flighty like so many of her friends seem to be. She takes her schoolwork seriously, perhaps too seriously. She has high standards for herself, and if she falls below them, her insecurity and worry are increased. Joan seems to be coming quietly through these difficult years, but the stress and strain are there and result in an almost complete withdrawal from people. She does a lot of daydreaming, imagining herself as the extrovert that she is not. She goes over and over little events in her life, reliving her successes and suffering through her failures all over again. Joan doesn't have emotional outbursts. Her safety valve is her diary. Here, she is herself, letting off emotional steam and clarifying her thoughts about growing up. And Sally's home life? Her mother doesn't intend to relax her discipline now, just when Sally needs it most.
Oh, hello, Kay. Just a minute, Kay. Mother, can't I even answer the phone without you listening in?
Sally, I don't want you going out tonight. You've been out far too much lately.
All right, Kay, I'll go. I suppose Mother will make a fuss, but I'll be there.
Sally wants independence, and this knocking out of the parental prop leaves her no support but the opinion of her friends. She must maintain her position with them at any cost.
Oh, don't let's ask her. She thinks she's so smart. Personally, I can't see what she has to be stuck up about, except a lot of expensive clothes. Anybody'd look good with all that money.
In her need for assurance, Sally tries to avoid girls who are more attractive or have more money or clothes than she has. She wants to have friends on her own level.
Did she? Oh, that just shows how stupid she is.
The long conversations irritate Sally's mother. She doesn't see them as part of her daughter's adjustment to other people and to herself. For Sally is thinking out loud as she talks. Now let's see how the boys get along at home. Remember, Sam didn't talk much with the crowd. He was more of a listener. At home, he is more sure of himself. His dog provides a great source of comfort and security. Whatever Sam does is all right with him. He's always willing to listen to what Sam has to say. But there are many questions Sam wants to ask. Many incidents of the day he wants to share with his parents.
And then they know where to go, and it's all done by code. Did you know that, Pop?
Everybody knows that, son.
Did you know that, ma'am?
Yes, dear. Oh, by the way, I wonder if we could go up with the old lady.
Sam's parents sometimes think he talks too much. They don't realize that their son wants to practice his conversational ability on them. Someday, when he is sure of himself, outside, they may have difficulty in finding out what his thoughts are. On the other hand, Tom, who talked so much about his father's achievements, seems most unappreciative of them at home. And he seems to have no ambition. Sometimes his father wonders if he's all right mentally. He is, but early teens are years of uneven development. There are spurts of mental energy as well as physical, and at other times, nothing seems to be happening. In reality, just as Tom's body needs rest after strenuous exercise, so his mind needs time to adjust to its new learning. And Bill's home life?
Where have you been all afternoon? Your father wanted you to cut the grass, and I had some errands I wanted you to do. Now get busy or he'll be annoyed.
So what?
Bill may be willing to cut the grass sometimes when he feels like it, but rules and jobs laid down too firmly by the top brass make him resentful. Bill is at that stage just before puberty, when children seem to go into reverse. Psychologists call it a negative phase.
Bill, do you mean to say you haven't finished that lawn yet?
I don't notice you cutting any grass.
Now, look here, young man. I'm not going to stand that kind of back talk. You're a member of this family, and you're going to act like one. Now, you finish that lawn before supper or else.
Too strict an attitude by parents seems only to result in more resistance. Bill doesn't seem to find companionship at home or enough satisfaction from hanging around with his old friends. Subconsciously, he is looking for acceptance and help with his problems. Luckily, he finds a friend, older than himself, but a real guy. Bill likes to hang around the gas station, helping Joe Connor, who runs it. Joe finds the boy a thorough worker, and they have lots to talk about. Local gossip, sports, cars, even the news of the day. Bill feels that Joe treats him in a more grown-up way than his parents. He finds it easier to confide in Joe, and he gets a lot off his chest as they chat. Sometimes young adolescents appear to enjoy utter uselessness. But this boundless energy can be directed into useful channels. Sam and Tom belong to the Boy Scouts. Like most teenagers, they enjoy constructive activity and a planned group project. It can be any community group, but organization is needed to ensure that there'll be enough boys there to carry out the program successfully. While they still need adult guidance, during these years, the quality of leadership becomes established. To be aggressive and bossy is no longer enough for the leader as it was in childhood. He must have skill in both physical and mental activities. He's usually slightly bigger or stronger than the average and has a friendly attitude, an outgoing personality. The leader among adolescents is likely to remain a leader through later life. As they move out of the sphere of home influence into the community, young teenagers feel the need of their own kind. They begin to patronize hangouts. Because girls are physically more mature than boys of the same age, most of the advances in the early teen years are made by the girls. Their efforts are crude and childish, but they're the beginnings of experiment in sex adjustment. This kind of performance often shocks parents. The boys really do feel superior to those silly girls, but while they pretend to scorn their attention, They're secretly flattered. Nothing would make them admit this, though. Subconsciously, it takes the form of showing off to attract more of the girl's attention. Kay and Sally didn't get far with the boys, but they found a substitute, identifying themselves with a glamorous movie actress who is very popular with men, gives them a satisfaction they couldn't get any other way. What about Joan? Doesn't she care for any activity or feel a need to admire and love someone? She does, but she has her own quiet way of working it out. She likes to cook all by herself, without direction from mother or the confusion of family meals. Tonight, she's making candy. It'll be a present for her music teacher, whom she's adored for a long time without telling anybody. So, 6 typical young teenagers have spent a Friday afternoon and evening. All of them seem to have problems that worry either them or their parents.
For goodness sake, Sam, go to bed. It's late.
Okay.
All of them experienced some parental friction. All want independence. All of them feel some stirrings of interest in sex, either openly or secretly. All of them are trying in their own way to adjust to a new set of circumstances and relationships. Tom's parents recognize this. They're willing to help in the making of these adjustments. As well as showing his interest, Tom's father respects him as a person.
Did you have a good meeting tonight?
Oh, it was okay, but half the fellas didn't show up.
Oh? Maybe there was something else going on.
Nah, they had dates. Seems like the fellas are always going out on dates now. They never...
He doesn't pry into Tom's affairs. The way is left open for discussion. He tries to be helpful. Contrast the attitude of Bill's father.
Bill, stop that racket, will you?
In a minute.
In a minute, nothing. Right now. I'm trying to listen to the radio. Oh, putting that darn thing up. No, stop it. Did you hear me?
By refusing to recognize his son as an individual with rights and wishes of his own, Bill's father not only fails to get the cooperation he demands, but actually widens the gap between himself and Bill. On the other hand, Tom's parents try to handle the problems of growing up in a constructive way. They gradually increase his independence, at the same time encouraging him to accept responsibility for what he does. Therefore, Tom doesn't have to rebel. The stricter discipline of childhood has given place to friendly guidance for the in-between years. Of course, having understanding parents doesn't eliminate all the problems, but it goes a long way towards lessening the tensions that give to early adolescence its name, the age of turmoil.
Country. I'd sure hate to spend the rest of my life in this old dump.
Yes, if you don't make an effort to understand them, teenage girls may seem silly and opinionated. And the boys,
Best pitcher in the National League.
He is nice.
Ah, yes, he is.
He can't throw the ball.
they want to prove their own importance by making themselves heard. That combination of new lung power, changed voices, and boundless energy is hard on the neighbors.
Give him a laugh.
They seem to spend hours. The knowledge that these difficulties are normal and usually only temporary helps to turn family friction into more constructive channels. Let's watch some of these youngsters as they spend Friday afternoon and evening. We'll see what some of the common troubles are. Sally, Joan, and Kay are typical teenagers. Each has her own personality, but they're all normal. Their actions may seem excessive, but that's normal for teenagers. For instance, that giggling. The unconstructive criticism of school.
Personally, I think Mr. Aldrich's classes are just a waste of time. If he can't teach any better than that, I can't be bothered studying. Why, this morning we spent 20 minutes before we even opened a book or read anything.
The criticism of families.
Last week, my brother spent all his allowance on candy in one day. I think it's awful the way Mother lets him waste money. Of course, she lets him do anything he wants.
The unrealistic ideas of their own future.
Well, I've really decided I'd like to be a ballet dancer. I'd get started in New York and I'd tour all...
The early teens are years of upheaval and turmoil. They're years of physical and glandular change, new and wider relationships with people, and new inner feelings in the early adolescent. Parents of almost every child find the age of puberty or early adolescence full of problems and completely useless activity. They quarrel a lot, but the gang sticks together. There are no girls in it. They are passionately interested in sports. And hero worship from afar is common. A car and home as good as the other boys have are important. The gang is impressed by material possessions. This bolsters Tom's self-esteem. To boast about Dad's popularity or achievement is very satisfying.
I said, okay.